Welcome to how to integrate Remedyforce with BMC Discovery on-premise 11.3 and later. I'm here today with Lisa Keeler on the BMC Discovery team. I'll do the Remedyforce configuration and she'll do the Discovery configuration. Configuring the integration, there are two parts. First you configure the Remedyforce side, and then once you have the secret key information, the consumer key information from the Remedyforce server or instance, then you configure the BMC Discovery. For the documentation, you can see the link below. To get started, we log into Remedyforce, and first thing we do is create a connected app. Go to Setup, click Create Apps. Then under Connected Apps, click New. For the connected app name, enter BMC Discovery. For the contact email, use the email of the BMC Discovery administrator, in this case Lisa Keeler. Enable OAuth settings, check the box, and then tick Enable for device flow. For selected OAuth scopes, select Access and Manage Your Data and move it over to selected OAuth scopes. Then click Save. Once you click Save, it'll be a few minutes before the changes take effect on the server. Click Continue. Make note of your consumer key and the consumer secret key. You'll need to send those to the Discovery admin. So we'll do that now. And click Reveal to see the consumer secret key. Next, click Manage. Click Edit Policies. And either relax the IP restrictions or enforce them. In this case, we have an IP range, so we've left it in place. And then change permitted users to all users may self-authorize, and click Save. Once this is complete, we're ready to do the configuration on the Discovery server.
The next step is to connect the BMC Discovery product to the Remedyforce product. So to do that, we go into the BMC Discovery GUI in the browser, and this is what I'm showing on my screen here. And I'm in the administration section, which you get to with this gear. And over here is the CMDB sync section, and that's where we will connect Remedy. So here I click Add New, Add CMDB Connection, and first thing I want to do actually is change the little radio button to say Remedyforce, and that changes the things that are asked for. So I'll give it a name, Test RF connection. This is a production environment, so I leave that checked. I need to enter the username and the password that were provided by my Remedyforce administrator. So I'm entering that. And the consumer key and the consumer secret, which were shown to you previously, that we got from connecting the app to Remedyforce. HTTP proxy, you probably don't need to use, but you can use a HTTP proxy if you want to, and then you would need the port, the username, and the password, but we're not using that. I can turn on the continuous sync. Continuous sync means that when I discover a new host or network device, it will automatically move over to Remedyforce. I would leave these alone. The concurrent workers can increase the speed, but if you use too many, and in my opinion more than 3 is too many, then you will get timeout errors. You will overwhelm the target system. The next step is to test the connection, and this was successful. And that means that my key, my username, my password, my secret, all of that is correct. Okay, so I'm going to click Add to add the connection. Here's my new synchronization to Remedyforce. Here's the new synchronization to Remedyforce right here, Test RF connection. If there was already data in Remedyforce with the source of BMC Discovery, meaning data had been put there from BMC Discovery, then there would be a note on the connection that a resync is required. But there's not a note here, so I know that there's no data in there yet. Now, I could do a resync. You can always do a resync when you want. You can click on the Resync tab and click Start Resync, but I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm just going to send a little bit of data to Remedyforce as a test. So I'm going to look for some of my hosts in the network. These are some local test hosts that we have in London, and I'm going to pick 3 of them and sync them to the Remedyforce connection. Okay, it tells me that that's happening, and I can go look at the overview page. And if you lose the little thing that told you how to get there, you just go back to administration, which is the gear, CMDB sync, Remedyforce connection, and then the status page, which we're on. And it shows me that I have 2 devices in the queue, now 1. It's currently processing this host. And then down here, it shows me the ones that have finished. Just changed from 1 to 2 while we were watching. So now it has synced all 3 of the hosts. And it's interesting to note here that 41 CIs were inserted. It's hard for me to only highlight that one piece, but I want to look at this inserted 41. And here it says inserted 105. And everything was inserted because these are new in Remedyforce. If I rediscovered these hosts or synced them again, we might have some data that's updated. Right now, everything was an insert. So now we can go back into Remedyforce and see if we can find this data.
So now that the sync is complete, we'll go back and look at the information in Remedyforce. You can go to the Remedyforce CMDB and search on computer system. And since all of ours started with London, we'll do LON dash. And I noticed, Lisa, there's 4 in there versus we just scheduled to send 3 across. I think this is the odd one. Do you have an explanation for that?
Yes, in my data, I just looked at one of the hosts, the LUN build ESX1, has a hardware container associated with it. And when we see a hardware container, we create another BMC computer system in the CMDB. So therefore we synced 3 hosts, but we created 4 BMC computer systems.
Okay. So there should be some other data. I noticed on the right side there were some numbers. So let me see what I'm talking about. Let me go to. You can also go to base elements to look at the data. Right-click, open new tab, and when you get to the tabs, there'll be the option to select base elements, and you can configure the default view however you want. Click go, and what you want is you want to add the source, and you'll see if you add the source field on there, this data comes from BMC Discovery. So you'll notice once we set up the sync, a lot more stuff came in than just the 3 that we selected. So these are all the child-related CIs. Lisa, can you explain more about those?
Yes, so for each host, we create the parent CI, I say, or the top-level CI, which is BMC computer system. And then also for those hosts, we create the child CIs, which are like network port, IP endpoint, product. We'll have software servers for the software that has been discovered by Discovery, processors. So yeah, there's just a lot of related CIs for each host.
So if we sorted by class name, then we'd only see, let me go to computer class. Let's edit this a minute and just pull class name. So here are the actual ones we imported.
Yes, just the top 4 that have the source BMC Discovery.
And so in the previous screen, when we had everything under all the rest of the classes, go back and put that back. So all this other information is related to those 4 computer systems. It'd be their child information, or what's the term that you use for their other information?
I call them child CIs.
Child CIs, okay, but they're related to the original system.
Yes, related to the original, the parent CIs. CI stands for configuration item, and it's a CMDB term.
Okay. If any of these get out of sync, then we just go back and go through that admin settings, that gear, and then click to resync, and it'll update automatically.
Yes, if there's some problem, you can run a resync, and that will resynchronize all of the discovered data into the Remedyforce system.
So if I understand correctly, if you need to resync it, there's not a way to schedule? Is that correct? You have to go in and do it manually?
That's correct. You cannot schedule a resync. A resync can take a long time depending on how much data you have. So it's a very purposeful thing, and you have to go into the browser or GUI to cause a resync. So you go here to the resync tab, and you would click Start Resync.
So then the data is only brought in when it's initially configured based on the CIs that you select.
Well, the way that I did it, yes, instead of doing a full resync and you getting all of my data, I just selected a few hosts. It's kind of a test thing. Just select a few hosts and then sync those hosts. After you are sure that things are set up the way you want them, then you will probably want to perform a resync to get all of the data into Remedyforce.
And how often do you recommend doing a resync?
So in theory, you would do a resync one time, when you first have a connection and you've verified everything's okay, then you would do a resync. And you should never have to do another resync, except, theories never work out. There can be other reasons you do resyncs, like maybe there was a defect, there was some problem, maybe someone directly edited data in Remedyforce and caused some problem. There's various reasons why you might need to do another resync. A resync can take days, depending on how much data you have. And we can't really give you an estimate of how long it would take.
If new computer systems are added, it would be better to just sync the individual system to come in and do it manually.
After I've done my resync, or somehow I have all the data in there into Remedyforce and I'm happy, the next thing I do is I make sure that continuous sync is turned on, which it is by default. Continuous sync is on. Okay. So if it's not on, then there would be an action continuous sync on, and I would turn it on. Okay. You should really always have continuous sync on. And what that does is that now when I run new discoveries every day or every week or however often I run them, as I discover hosts, network devices, etc., then it will synchronize the changes to those devices over to Remedyforce in real time as things are being discovered. You should really never turn continuous sync off. That's my advice. If you want to, for some reason, take a pause in the sync, you should use this pause sync. And then after you pause it, then you can resume it later when you're ready to resume it.
What would be the circumstances where you'd want to pause it?
If my Remedyforce administrator calls me and says that the Remedyforce is having some problem and we're sending it too much data and we're overwhelming it, then I want to pause it until they fix their problems. Then I'll resume.
Okay.
There's one circumstance. Maybe I'm testing some kind of customizations on Discovery, and I might want to pause the sync for a while I'm testing them. That's another reason.
It'd be just under some circumstance where it's not good to have it syncing, whether upgrade or network issues or Salesforce is down or Remedyforce upgrades going on or something like that.
Exactly.
And then it'd be temporary, and you'd start it back up, and you don't have to do a complete resync. The software will sync what needs to be done, so it keeps up with the delta then.
So what happens when you pause the sync is that we still put, like while your discoveries are running, you'll be discovering hosts, devices, etc. And we put all of those things into the synchronization queue. And then but we don't send anything to Remedyforce while it's paused. And then when you resume, then we start processing the queue and sending all the things to Remedyforce that we missed while it was paused. So it catches up. So no, you should not have to do a resync just because you paused the sync and resumed. It'll catch up.
And how do we handle when Discovery is upgraded? Does it handle everything on its side, and we don't need to mess with the resync? Or is there anything associated with that the customer needs to do?
So on a typical Discovery upgrade, you simply, in Discovery, you run the upgrade in the user interface, and while the upgrade goes on, it shuts down the Discovery services, and then when the upgrade is finished, it starts the services. And when the services start again, then the synchronization will be happening again because you have continuous sync on, and there's really no disruption except Remedyforce didn't receive data for 30 minutes or so during the upgrade. There's not a resync needed after an upgrade.
So then it's really a pretty stable process. Once you get it configured, you test the connection, set the resync, pretty much runs on its own then, for the most part.
Yeah, it should be that way, yes.
Okay.
I mean, you shouldn't have to be constantly worried about it. It should be running on its own. You should have the continuous sync on, and it keeps running. So you notice here it says I have paused. The little bluish green strip says it's paused. So I'll resume it now. That's actually a case sometimes we get. They say that we stopped sending data to the target, and it's because it was paused. I'll just mention that. Yeah.
Oh, it's check that.
Check that.
Okay. Perfect. Is there any other thing that you might think is beneficial for users to know, customers to know?
Back here on the Details tab, this is where we initially had configured it. I'll just say that's how you get back there, is the Details.
Okay.
Again, you can set this the concurrent workers. It's kind of like threads, except it's threads times 7 or something. Like one worker is about 7 threads.
Okay.
So if you use 3 workers, you've got about 21 threads. That's a lot of throughput. So you can increase this number to make this synchronization happen faster, but the risk is overwhelming the target. And if you start getting timeouts and connection errors, then that's probably because you put too many of these workers.
Where will those be logged if we get those?
You will see those in the status page here. See right here it says total errors is 0. But if you had errors, the errors would appear right here, and you would see things like error connecting to Remedyforce or timeout while sending the data, errors such as that. And that would mean that you probably chose too many concurrent workers.
Let's set them back to 1.
Yes, that's a safe thing to do.
And really, since it's an ongoing process, unless there's an extraordinary circumstance, you really wouldn't need to turn them up more above 1. Would you say that's a correct assumption or no?
I think the only time any customers ever need to increase that number of workers is when it's a very large customer with a lot of data and they need to do a resync for some reason, and that's going to take days, and so they'll increase the number of concurrent workers maybe to 3, to a safe number, and do the resync, and it will run quicker.
Okay.
But yes, when you're just running the continuous sync, you probably never need to have that at more than 1.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Lisa, for your time. This concludes how to integrate Remedyforce with BMC Discovery OnPremise.
Okay, thank you.